Caught Offside has reported an exclusive. Chelsea preparing a new and improved bid worth £70 million for Alex Scott. Arsenal and Liverpool are among the clubs lurking in the background. Full story to follow. Now, I went through this full story, and I'm going to be honest, there was nothing of worth pulling out from it other than what we already knew. The only difference was Chelsea are now basically saying, we're going to go back in with £70 million. It's more than likely going to be rejected by Bournemouth because they are sitting and waiting for £80 million. Chelsea do not want to overspend in this market in terms of we're not just going to overpay for a player for the sake of it. And I respect that. We're digging our heels in. Like I said previously, with when it comes to Adam Wharton, they're very different players. And I think they both fit into an Alonso squad, and it changes the dynamic slightly in terms of what they can do on the pitch. I like Alex Scott. I think he's a fantastic player. This guy wants the Chelsea move. That's what we know. Chelsea don't want to spend £80 million. So maybe this is a bit of an Arsenal and Bruno G and Newcastle type situation where the player wants the move. Newcastle are waiting for a certain amount, and Arsenal are like, we ain't going to do that. We're going to pay X amount. That's as much as we're willing to go. And the player internally goes, I want the move. And it reduces that fee a little. If Chelsea can sign Alex Scott for £70 million, yes, it's a ridiculous amount of money. It's a lot of money. Is he worth £70 million? I don't think so. I don't think Rodgers is worth 117. In this inflated market, the game's the game. That's the price that we would eventually pay. If we secure him for that, I think Chelsea see that as we save some money. We've got a really good player for now and for the future. But I still think that Adam Wharton is their main target in terms of Alonso's target to fit that system perfectly. We have a lot of midfielders. We still need to bring in. We've got Jordan Henderson coming in. We need two midfielders. And I think those midfielders are Alex Scott and Adam Wharton. If Chelsea pull this off, it is a 10 out of 10 window. And at the moment, it's a strong 8. We still need that left back sorted and we need that midfield sorted. Those are the two positions we're going to rate this on at the end of the window. We've got Henderson in. I like that. Lavia, he's fit for now, but he might not be. I'm going to say he's not, just in case, because looking historically, that guy can't stay fit. Asugo, I hope that he stays fit, because he is Caicedo's replacement. That's your like for like there. Enzo, I still think he gets sold, so I think that he's off, which one you can't really discount the squad place now, because he's still there, but I think that's what they're trying to plan on do, and I think that we sell him for a reduced fee, and it frees up another spot. Chelsea do need two more midfielders because you can look at it and say we're stacked. Alex Scott will be the Andre Santos replacement. That's an improvement. Henderson is just there for dressing room support, an absolute must-need if we've got no other option to go midfield. Maybe Alonso's got a slightly different role for him, but he will get limited games. He's not going to play 38 games a season. Asugo, if he stays fit, is a rotation for Caicedo. Caicedo plays every game. So we do need a couple midfielders, and if we can do this, mate, we would be cooking. So, like I said, within the article itself, it's Mark Bruce. We don't know how reliable it is, but in the article, he's basically saying a friend of a friend was whispering in his ear and, went through the grapevine and basically said that Chelsea are going to pay £70 million and Bournemouth are probably going to turn it down. I think at that point, if it does go ahead that way, that's when serious conversation is going to be had, because if Alex Scott pushes for this move, maybe we get 70 plus 5 million in add-ons or whatever, and we get closer to that 80. Who really knows? But I think that Alex Scott and Adam Wharton will more than likely be wearing a Chelsea shirt, one or the other. If we get both, honestly, I'll be in dreamland, because that's insane of a window. But one of them for sure will be wearing a Chelsea shirt by the end of the window. That is my thoughts and opinions. So let me know yours down below regarding Alex Scott. Should Chelsea go spend £80 million? Should we just overspend in this market? Because that's what Bournemouth want us to pay, and they don't want to sell Alex Scott. Obviously, Krupi has just got an injury. That's going to obviously change his stance in being sold too. I'll be very curious to know your thoughts. Who would you rather, Adam Scott or Alex Wharton, right? Adam Wharton or Alex Scott? Some of you guys had debates in the comments as well, and I read all the comments and I go through it and I'm like, you guys have got good points. I don't know who I would prefer out of the two. I would lean towards Adam Wharton. He's my number one target in terms of priorities, and I think he'd be perfect partnering Caicedo.
To one side, because you say, look, they're settled. They've won it last year. They know what they're doing. They may strengthen in quite a dramatic way as well. If we've seen the rumours to be believed, they may even be stronger. But it is hard to defend a title. You listen to Sir Alex Ferguson talk about how difficult it was to lift his team, and he would put his back-to-back Premier Leagues as right up there with the very best achievements he had, because it was so difficult to combat that inertia after the exhalation of winning the Premier League. So Arsenal are going to have to deal with that challenge, aren't they? Other than that, I mean, it's open, right? You can talk about Man City if you like. They'll be second favourites. But they've got a manager who's following the greatest manager probably to ever manage in the game. And that's not an easy thing to do. I think Maresca's good, but it's a big challenge. And I think you can make a case against or for pretty much every other team outside of Arsenal who would be in that conversation generally. I mean, what do you think?
I just think, obviously, have Arsenal still as favourites. You have to. It's almost a courtesy.
Yeah, I think they're favourites. Yeah, they're favourites.
But at the same time, we saw the impact of last season on Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka during the World Cup. They weren't fit throughout all of it until the third place playoff, and they looked absolutely brilliant. But maybe that could catch up with Arsenal a bit this season if they don't do a bit more strengthening in this window. You know, if Declan Rice is missing potentially for some of the season. Look, it is all hypothetical, and obviously you don't want players to get injued. But when I look at Chelsea...
That's why they're going Guimaraes, isn't it? That's why they're going
exactly. But when I do look at Chelsea, I do think the lack of European football does play a massive part in terms of being up there. I agree with you in terms of Enzo Maresca coming in and taking on that Manchester City job, but it is still a club that he knows well, and he knows a lot of those players well.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure he can. I think things are now looking very, very bleak for Gianni Infantino, and I think that's an extraordinary thing to say, because just a few days ago, he seemed to be at the height of his powers. He started this week by taking to social media and writing an 8-page diatribe, calling his critics haters, and celebrating what a great job he was doing. Fast forward a couple of days and he's fighting to keep his job. I think the question this evening is he going to be taken out by somebody inside FIFA or somebody outside FIFA? Because I have to put my cards on the table. There are some very, very good people working at FIFA. I know FIFA have a bad reputation, but that doesn't mean that the people who work there all are on the same page or agree with what Gianni Infantino has done. I know for a fact many people who work at FIFA are repulsed by some of the things that have been happening under Infantino's presidency. For instance, what we saw at the World Cup, the outrageous ticket prices, the hydration breaks, the Flo Balogun affair. You know, there are people inside FIFA who are horrified by what has been happening and how close Infantino has been getting to President Donald Trump. And that is why when I read statements from FIFA, sometimes I read them and think, this statement is not from FIFA. This statement is just the statement of one person, Gianni Infantino. This is just his point of view. What is being put out by FIFA...
The best midfielder arrivals don't require a total rebuild. They slot into existing patterns and immediately raise the quality of decisions around them. So the end of the saga is really the beginning of a new question. What does Arsenal look like with Bruno influencing the tempo every week? If he integrates smoothly, you'd expect a midfield that feels harder to disrupt and harder to escape. A team that can recover shape faster after losing the ball. A team that can push their attack with more certainty, because the defense behind the attack is more organized.